Very good morning, guys. It's a lovely Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. We are going to talk about some pretty fantastic setups that hopefully are coming in the next few days. I'm pretty interested. You can see UK notes. I sent these out last night. We had several that were kind of working their way into some confirmation for some 15-minute trades. We have about half of them left. There's about 3 left that are still working their way on through. So we have some good 15-minute trades coming up. We'll talk about those. On that note, remember the 15-minute trade course is available. So if you go to DTFX, or actually it's this guy right here. I'll just go ahead and do everyone a favor and give that a little pause, Rooney. DTFX.co/15-minute trade. Have a look at the trade course. We've got some great material in there, and it's all very good stuff. So give that a look, stop by, and let's spend some time talking about what some of these setups are looking like, and how we can make money as according to the good old trade course we've got up now. Let's spend a couple of minutes on this euro dollar. I'm kind of curious if, not curious, well, I don't know what the right word is here. Last night I talked about wanting a break of this 10600, or excuse me, 10660 for a move into 10600. You can see it just kind of tested that area. We didn't get any breaks at all. I don't even think my alert got set off here. So still looking to see how that's going to play out. That's a pretty nice rising wedge. That's a pretty intense trend line, and it's getting kind of mucky around that trend line. You can see, we've had some hits. That one didn't even get all the way down there, and then this one hit hard and has just been bumping along that trend line. Now, it's definitely easy to say we've got a nice uptrend going here for the shorter term, and we've definitely had a nice quadruple-ish bottom in the works, and this is a pretty good signal that some upward movement would follow, and it has and did. And then we had our nice little, kind of quadruple top up here, and a nice breakout. This was a trade call from yesterday from UK Note. We'll run down, and it's coming back up. So we're going to see what this does, but it's making a pretty big reaction on this trend line. And I think if we can get below that 106.60 area, we've at least got 50 or 60, semi-decent pips to trade this on down. So we'll see how that goes. Making a good little push up right now, so we'll just kind of see what transpires here. We could just see this kind of continuing up. This could just be, a dip and an opportunity to kind of buy against these lows as well. It doesn't make me as excited knowing that, this is a rising wedge, and it's always hard to try to buy inside of rising wedges, although it's probably a good idea a chunk of the time. But it's looking good, and you never know. We could be seeing something a little bit like this happening and giving us one more high before something like that happens, and we could get some nice little kind of additional trend line activity through there. So a couple of good possibilities here on this euro dollar. So anyway, it looks good. We'll see how it plays out. And definitely going to be watching this. I want to see if we can get some euro dollar sell-off, see if we can get back down to this 10600, 105, 75 area, and so on. So anyway, euro dollar looks good. Pretty interested in that. And on that note, we had, finally we had a little bit of a break of the rising wedge on the pound dollar. Nice little pound dollar rising wedge here. We talked about this one. This is the neckline of that kind of larger head and shoulders pattern that Chris was looking at and talking about this week as well. So we'll see. Maybe that neckline needs a little retest. We've got some pivots all the way down there. If that neckline breaks and it kind of invalidates this, then we'll discuss some other details there. But for the moment, it could just be giving us a little bit of a dip and maybe ready for some bigger pushes down. I don't know if I'll be doing anything on pound dollar this morning, but just thought I'd, you know, kind of watching some of these patterns and watching some of these rising wedges. And this one has definitely done a nice job rallying. As Chris mentioned yesterday, I think, it met that symmetry of kind of this shorter term movement here, did a perfect job on that, and it's pulling back a little bit. So we'll see if Eurodollar can do the same, just kind of give us a little rising wedge break. Not looking for a full-fledged reversal, just some dips, kind of like this pound dollar is doing. On the note of a couple of pound pairs and CAD pairs and so on, we had some additional setups last night. Some of these played out. Aussie CAD, Euro CAD, CAD Yen, Euro Pound, Pound Yen, and gold, actually. I had a little bit of a setup going on the 15-minute chart. So a couple to look at here. On the CAD pairs, a couple of the CADs played out for the 15-minute side of things, but these are going to be ones that we want to kind of watch and keep our eye on as we go into the next week. So we have CAD Yen that's at it's creeping up on 300 bars. We're just about 290 here. This is looking like a really good setup. We've got some nice pivots in here, and it's pulling away fairly well. So creeping up on 300 bars. If this can survive today, and if it can survive, you know, Sunday / first part of Monday, this is going to start to be a pretty appealing trade for some 15-minute activity. So not doing anything with it yet, but hoping we can survive the next trading session or so and get through that and see how that plays out. Euro CAD just barely touched, which a little bummed about that one because that was looking pretty excellent as well. So that just barely hit. So no 15-minute trade there, and the Aussie CAD also hit just recently in the last little bit. So again, the CAD pairs definitely kind of pulled back a bit. So those were setting up nicely last night, and they kind of ran their course. So we have CAD Yen that looks very, very good still. Euro Pound was looking good. I believe the Euro Pound hit just recently. So Euro Pound was getting up into that kind of 250 mark, made a little turn and a little bit of a run, so that one's out. So we've still got Pound Yen, and the Pound Yen, we had some Pound Yen 15-minute trade setups not too long ago, and worked out pretty well. And this one's looking good. We're right up about that 280 bar count. Again, we can just kind of survive and let this continue to cruise on along, hopefully give us a third missed pivot. That might preempt the move just a little bit. I'm trying to remember if is that monthly? It's not a missed monthly, is it? No. Okay. So anyway, that's looking interesting. Going to keep a close eye on that Pound Yen, especially if we get a third pivot going into like Sunday market open and going into Monday and so on. If we have 3 pivots, may take that trade a little bit earlier with those 3 pivots. So that's looking good. Trying to think, why did I have? I know several can't trade gold and several can, so I figured, why don't we just throw it in there? Gold made it an amazing movement at the beginning of the year with the 1-hour chart. The 1-hour chart had like 700 bars that hadn't touched, and it made this massive movement up. So I figured, it's worth keeping an eye on this 15-minute chart as well. So we'll see if gold turns out to be anything in that area. So got a couple of setups. Again, those 2 guys, adios, and that one, adios. But we've still got 3 that are looking good, and more, more to come as the week goes. So those are kind of the ones I'm watching for the moment. We'll see how it goes. But I think we had a different. I think we had a different. There we go. A couple of different setups that are in the works. We'll talk about on Monday. But everyone have a pretty good week. You guys all make some decent trades and get a couple of bucks out of the market this week. Everyone have an okay run. Feels like it was a pretty good week. There were some nice little setups, some good some good pips, some good things happened. So um, good, excellent, very nice to hear. Positive week, good week, great week, excellent, very good. All right, guys, very nice to hear. We've definitely had Aussie New Zealand wasn't the biggest point of happiness, but that's okay. That's gonna, all of these things are gonna work out, so that is great. Very good. And we've had several new people join the group this week as well, so that's been nice having some new people on with us. So good. Kettle, last week -70. This week 450 plus. Good for you, Kettle. Nice work. That is excellent, man. Good trading. Very nice. Love to hear that. Yeah, that's very good trading. Kettle, I didn't see the New Zealand dollar move 450 pips, but I mean, good for you. That's nice. It's a nice pivot. No, great work, Kettle. That's awesome. That's very good to hear. Very nice. And Craig had a little bit of a testing week. Paul, closed trades only count, right? Closed trades and trades where you're at least locking in some profit. Good work, Kettle. Nice work. Trading some other pairs. Very nicely done. Congratulations. I think you might be Trader of the Week this week. So that's awesome. Those are some great profits. Okay, good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Chris, what are you thinking? Let's hear.
Unmuted.
What's on the Chris agenda?
Yeah, so I'm watching a couple things. I might take a stab at the Aussie CAD here in just a moment. Bring out my screen here. And
Aussie CAD, the good old Aussie CAD.
Yeah, we've got. I was in this one late last night. Everybody can see the dollar Swiss. I'm looking at. I'm gonna try to throw in a buy trade here at 90, 99.60, and just kind of test and see, is this support level going to hold? If so, I mean, I know that the euro dollar found a way to the daily pivot, weekly pivot. The dollar Swiss has not. So maybe just because it's a little bit tighter, a little bit lower volatility, but I'm looking to see if there's some defense here around this 99.60, 99.50 zone. Just for one more little test between this area back up to parity, and try to squeak out a few pips on that one. Let's see if that gets triggered. The Aussie CAD last night worked out pretty well. This is a trade, I had mentioned this to Jared, we're a little bit early as far as looking at the 15-minute EMA. It was around 220 or so bars yesterday, and you kind of had to get into the trenches here, but I was watching this one when the day opened, and so as soon as we had the new day start, you can see the pivot right there. Spreads went back to normal near this low. It wasn't great. I put in the pending order for us as the group at 98.50. We came down to 51 and didn't get filled. The spread was back to normal. I saw that I was able to get filled around 59. So I took a trade at 59 and I kept that pending order at 50 just in case. But as soon as this third pivot was hit, I went ahead and closed up for some profit. And then later this morning, now we've had a little bit of a double bottom. We pulled back. We're finding this other pivot. And so what I'm looking at is this little guy, which is a 1 hour and 4 hour pivot. So what I'm going to wait for is we'll see if this thing, it's starting to make a slightly higher high in price already, which is kind of good, but I'm not going to jump right on it. I'm going to see if we can get up maybe above 99.20 before I consider a short trade, and I'll take a position from there. So it's something I'll get in if I get into it now and stay with it. If it goes up another probably 15 or 20 pips, I'll short it again. That's a good indicator right there that I'm probably going to take the trade. All right, so give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and just take, is it ready? Yeah, it's ready enough. 18. All right. All right, I might have to keep working through this just a little bit longer, but I'll play it. I'll play it by ear. So I just took a trade here at 99.8. Well, filled me at pretty much 99.19 or 98.19. Nope, 99.19. All right. So I got filled here at pretty much 99.19, and the pivots are down here at 98.91. So there is, you know, going after about 15 to 20 pips once you discount the spread. It's like 17 or so pips. So I'm going to take that trade there, just kind of work through it a little bit, and just focused on this as a trade for the day. Nothing too crazy there, but you know, hopefully we see a trade that wants to make an attempt to come back towards this previous level, come back down to that little pivot cluster, and be done. So that's one trade that I've got going right now, and I'll work that area a little bit. Another one, let's see here. So I'll space that trade out if it goes a little bit against me. Another one that I'm watching is the New Zealand US dollar on the, oops, I meant to switch charts. This is specifically my Aussie CAD chart. Park that guy over here. Okay. The New Zealand US dollar. All right, so with this little surge we're getting right now against the US dollar, ever so slowly, this pair I'm looking to sell at the highs. We have a high here at 73.10. Set a chart alarm there, and I do have a pending order pretty much at that high. My broker has a high of 73.09, and I'm putting the trade right there back up at the high. So I'm only taking a half a standard lot, so it's kind of half the trade size, but we have a weekly pivot. Here, let me bring over my MetaTrader so we can calculate it. So right here is the weekly pivot for next week. So when we talked about this one yesterday, price was right here at the green line, and so there was, you know, basically it was setting up to not give us a trade. But if we can come back up to these highs, there's about 40 to 50 pips to go back down to that third pivot. So it sets up, or it is setting up very similarly to the Aussie dollar this week, which was, you know, we were at 75.80, we were at 7,600, 7,600, 7,600, then we finally went down to that pivot, and that was the third in the row for the Aussie dollar. So I'm looking for the same thing on New Zealand US dollar, try to get a, you know, good entry off the highs. If it goes a little bit higher, I'll still add to it, and then look for that alignment to come back to that third pivot in a row. So I think that's a good one. You know, the higher the better as far as our entry. So I'm just going to start here at the highs at 73.10 and just put in one trade. If it goes further, you know, I'll add to it for a second position, and just my target really is to get out of the trade, you know, at the weekly pivot. I think that's a good alignment for us to look at some profit for. All right, so that one's looking pretty good, and also it'd be nice to get, you know, now that we have just two left, it'd be nice to get, you know, one of those to work out for the 15-minute EMA. So we'll see if we can line up that trade. And all right, let's do this point. All right, just adjusting a few things. So dollar Swiss still isn't coming down enough. We'll see if that thing, where that goes for the end of the day. Any questions on this right now? So let's see. Paul says just took profit on Aussie CAD. Okay. All right. Any questions on New Zealand US dollar as far as getting this trade started? Jared, is this worthy of a group trade for us as far as, you know, setting it up there at 73.10, starting the order? Also, the reason I like this trade, if you just look at the bigger time frame, we are sitting right in the back side of that trend line. So, you know, and again, it's, I mean, you're looking left, and it's been a pretty bumpy ride for the most part, you know, with what looks to be, you know, corrective, turning, and hopefully trendy, and it's just been channel after channel for the Kiwi. But just really looking to take a trade as high as possible, start one entry. It might require two entries, but we're going after next week's pivot. So right now, Craig, that's a good question. Craig's asking where's the target again? So right now, and you know, this is fluctuating with price for the rest of the day, but right now the next week's pivot is estimated to be around 72.50. So I'll just go ahead and write this on the chart. Weekly pivot estimated 72.50. Okay, so if it's estimated at 72.50 and we look at a trade at 73.10, you know, that's a decent amount of room to work with. That's 55 to 60 pips worth of, you know, a trade for us. And if we can add to it, you know, perhaps this thing is going to be stubborn a little bit and come up to another high. You know, this level, this high is 73.80. Again, I'm okay with that as long as the trade size is conservative. That way I can work through it and work that area. But you know, look at this really clean channel. You know, trend line, trend line, trend line. We broke it. We retested it. We are retesting it yet again. So with that pivot alignment and with the backside of that trend line, I could see us, you know, making a pretty easy trade out of this for hopefully 50 or so pips. That's of course if it bounces right off of our 73.10 level. But just willing to work through it if we have, you know, the opportunity to do so. So I'm just watching it by the end of the day, and I'll probably send something in Telegram, you know, where the pivot is going to print. And I probably won't just take a trade. I mean, if we are only 20 pips away from next week's pivot, I probably won't take the trade. I still like the 73.10 area. I think that's, you know, allowing price to retest those highs, get another rejection off the backside of the trend line. That would make me, you know, that'd make me happy as far as getting a good fill on the trade. And you know, going after 50 plus pips, I don't think we would mind that. You know, 50 pips adds up pretty quickly. So, any issues on that one? I think that looks good.
I think that setup looks good. The only thing that worries me is the half of the currency pair that's not the U.S. dollar. But
yeah, I know.
Otherwise, no, that's a good looking setup. That's definitely a good looking setup.
Yeah, it's, you know, and if it wasn't for the, you know, the alignment as far as having the weekly pivots, it would be less interesting to me. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, no, I've hedged a little bit on the New Zealand Swiss, and that trade's actually nicely positive now. I was in at 72.50 and I got in a little bit lower, and so I'm actually, you know, 20 pips net positive on a couple positions, so that trade's actually going well. And our Euro New Zealand has broken below those lows, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check here on the 4-hour chart. You know, so we had a failed 4-hour crown. We had a fail, well, I guess we didn't fail yet, but this double bottom is, you know, right on the brink of either failing and dropping to that weekly symmetry level, which we've talked about for a long time, that I think could be a major turning point for the Kiwi, just by the larger technicals. But you know, and I looked at this again yesterday on just a bigger time frame. And I'm thinking, you know, if this thing holds, it would be so nice to see a big move out of it. But that's why I think it's going to come lower. I just feel like in this channel that's still, you know, spiky and choppy, it's like there's no incentive right now for the New Zealand dollar just to get super weak. And, you know, of course, I say that, and, you know, we talked in detail about the Aussie New Zealand dollar, and I'm still watching that. It's not invalid or anything yet, but just watching these levels very carefully. I opted to take the New Zealand Swiss because it's not as volatile. I think the carry obviously is one of the biggest discrepancies in the market. We have, you know, negative 0.75 for the Swiss. We have 1.75 for the Kiwi. That's a big carry difference. So even just having a couple of trades on, that's actually a pretty good swap to be in on, even if price doesn't go anywhere. I mean, price could literally go nowhere, and you can still make some money on positive swap. So, but it's not a great trade. I mean, I hate the fact that I bought, you know, the New Zealand Swiss literally at the highs. I mean, that feels terrible to me. But, you know, we looked at this from the weekly chart. We looked at this from the perspective of this, if this is just going to keep, you know, lingering higher. I mean, this really is a carry trade that just will keep going until RBNZ decides otherwise. And one other note on that one is look at this this timing. All right, the last time that we had this massive wave of Kiwi weakness, it came in Q2. So we're finishing up the month of January. We'll have February and March, but look at this. This was the last time that we had this massive low, and this was in April of 2015. And, you know, to start the year, I mean, I remember looking at this trade for the start of the year. We had a yearly pivot on the Euro New Zealand, and I was very interested. There was a little crown in here. I ended up taking a nice trade there, thinking I could get to the yearly pivot, but symmetry worked out, so that was a good trade. And then it didn't even matter. It just came all the way back down, below that low, below that low. But after that quarter, it just went bananas, you know, and there's our yearly pivot. And we're looking at the same thing this year. Look at this yearly pivot this year. And this thing has just been kind of bleeding a little bit lower. We've got that weekly symmetry lining up. I think when it's ready, you know, and I mean, gosh, Jared, we've said this for a year. I mean, it felt all since last year we've been talking about this. But either this weekly symmetry is a major turning point, or I suppose if they're just going to keep pushing this thing, that you know, we could have a massive double bottom at 140, just like we had previously. This is 139, but you know, 140, 139 again, double bottom, and then yearly pivot, bring it on. I mean, that'd be incredible, right? I mean, to have a 2,000 to 2,500 pip move that I honestly think, with a little bit of help from the RBNZ, which is what this Kiwi needs if it's going to be weak, it's going to move so fast that it would maybe take, you know, a month to move 1,000 plus pips. So again, if we look at the next 3 months or the next 6 months, I just don't want to miss this trade, period. I don't want us to miss this trade. I don't want us to miss any chunk of this trade. But the behavior that we're seeing right now on the Euro New Zealand, the behavior right now is not, it's not showing the signs of us being bullish on this Euro New Zealand. You know, it might show it here, and I've got a trade in there to kind of look for it. But if it's a trade that just kind of slides lower, then I'm not gonna hold the trade. But if a trade that turns and I can get some pretty quick pips out of it, then I might just, you know, either take profit right away or go to break even and see if I can get super lucky on some major turning point. So anyway, the story continues with the Kiwi, but I think that you know, this crown looked really, really solid, but we're still in this massive weekly wedge. And so this is what I saw, you know, yesterday, just waiting, you know, 2 to 3 year old trend line. We're wedging. We've got this big crown. We've got this other, you know, channel that's consolidating. So it's just a pain in the butt, but it will pay out. And I just think when it does, we need to just expect it to do this. Expect it to be one of those trades when it does happen. It's going to be a trade like this. There won't be a pullback. It's going to be a trade that when it goes, it's going to go and maybe take out some highs and breathe, and it's just going to keep going. And it'll move quick. And I just think we, you know, whatever, we'll just keep watching for it. But we'll make money on it whenever it's ready. Until then, if you want to join me in a bit of a carry trade, I'm in New Zealand Swiss long. But like I said, I hate the entry. I think it's a terrible entry for me. But you know, if it's just going to keep sliding with Kiwi strength and carry trade, then I might as well play the ball game a little bit. All right. So anyway, a little story on that one. Aussie New Zealand is still hanging out around 103.90. You know, we're not invalid yet, but watching everything very carefully to see if this right side of the trend line will hold. If the you know, this is a bit of a crown here. Plus we have the right shoulder area. See if that will hold. And also with that New Zealand US dollar. So you know, we're getting some really, really clean alignments on all these Kiwi pairs. I really do like the sell trade here on New Zealand US dollar. So I'll get that in. You know, if everybody's liking that trade, I'll happily put that in. I think that's going to be a good, you know, 50 plus pips that we're after. And if it goes up a little bit higher, we can work through it a little bit. This previous high isn't that far away. You know, this previous high, if we get in at 73.10, I mean, we've had trades move against us before. And so, I mean, keeping the trade size somewhat small and, you know, throwing in another trade a little bit higher is not that big of a deal. But I think off the backside of that weekly trend line, that should hopefully promote a nice spot for us to get a clean 50, 60 pips out of this trade. Okay, so that is kind of all I have for today. I mean, I think that it's kind of looking ahead to our 15-minute bar counts. Let's see if we get, what were they again, Jared, that we have remaining? Pound yen?
Pound yen, yep. CAD yen.
Okay.
I think those are the two.
That's
so
it. Okay.
Pound yen, CAD yen, and then I'm keeping an eye on gold to see how that plays out. But
okay.
Yep.
bar count on this one is 284. Okay, so let's do something. Let's check out this little fancy forecasting. By the end of today, we'll be at 314. And let me measure this guy here, because if you take this over for Monday, so by the end of the day, we're going to be at 312 or 314. By the end of the day, Monday, it's going to be at 410. So as this thing pushes a little bit higher, I think an area that I'd like to put a sell trade in, if I'm just going to throw one in now, I don't mean now at price. I mean, if I'm looking left on the chart, I would say I would throw in a sell trade way up here around 145, 145.40. And see if that high means anything for this pound yen to maybe start this trade. So this is probably something we can revisit next week. In fact, I put the order in early this morning at 145.25, but I'm going to delete that just because if it hits it today, and I don't think that it will, but if it somehow finds a way to hit it today, and I'm only at 280 bars, that's not the level that I want to start the sell trade. So I'll just wait, but I think that that's a spot to be watching for. But also on that note, we need to look at the third pivot, correct? I think you said that this morning. This is a missed pivot. This is a missed pivot, and so depending on where Monday's pivot opens, I might just take a trade separately, not necessarily for the 15-minute EMA because that might take a little bit longer. But if we just get retest to the high or bounce off this monthly pivot that's already been hit, but if we bounce off it, that could be a nice little short-term trade. And then if it goes for one more push higher, we start getting the bar count we want, then we can start looking at that 15-minute EMA. So we might be able to chew the pound yen up for some decent pips early next week.
I'm glad to hear you open to some yen activity.
Well, the last time you called that 3 pivot pound yen, I'm like, that was 45 pips, man. How did I not take that trade? So I'm not gonna miss that one again,
We'll attack. We'll make sure everyone gets a good piece of this one.
Yep.
So it's looking good though, and the pound yen is wild of a beast as it is. I almost prefer to trade these crazy volatile ones on on the third pivot or the 15-minute 200 EMA because it's easy to grab like 100 pips out of these ones, whereas on something else we may only get 30, 40, 50 on these kinds of setups. So I'm excited about both of these. I'm super looking forward to possibly a third pivot and definitely a better bar count on the 200 EMA because we've done well on yen pairs on the 15-minute 200 EMA. Against all odds, it'll look like these pairs are trending relentlessly, and then we'll get a 15-minute bar count, and they just make fantastic setups, and then they continue on.
Yep.
So that one looks good. I like it. I think that New Zealand dollar looks really good too. I think that's going to be an interesting setup as it retests the back of that trend line. That's a good looking one. Yeah,
I think so too. And so the higher it goes, and that's why I just thought if we look at the trade, trying to get a good entry off of the 7,300 or 7,310 zone, it's the same game really that the Aussie dollar did this week. I mean, look at the Aussie dollar, and I'm so glad that I'm out of the trade. I mean, I know that I got in early, but I also sold it again at 7,600 when the news came out. I really stepped on the gas on this trade, and I took every ounce without going in like 10 standard lots. I mean, but I did end up trading like close to 2.5. I wasn't 2.5 standard lots. It was half a lot, and then I stepped on a lot and a half right here after the news. But I mean, that was my alignment. That was my target. That was my pivot. That's what I wanted to trade it to. I mean, should it have come lower to the 23% level? Sure, and it might still consolidate, and still just kind of grinding out these like lower highs and lower lows. But that was the alignment. That was the pivot that we wanted, and it all worked out. And in looking at this trade, I mean, I'm glad that I was in it over here, maybe not so much, way left, but I mean, at 7,600 and another rejection at 7,600 and another rejection at 7,600, it was the news that finally made it happen. And so if I was waiting and waiting and waiting for confirmation, it would have been, maybe grabbing 20 pips out of the move. Instead, I was able to, build it up just a little bit and then, add to it on that good confirmation and just make it a little bit little bit sweeter profit when it was all done. So I think, you know, looking at a good level here at New Zealand US dollar, I think it could play out, you know, in a similar fashion where we get a retest of the same level again, backside of the trend line. And even if it just ranges, you know, even if it just comes back down to this low and the pivot happens to sit somewhere in between, I mean, that should be a pretty easy trade for us to start things off next week. So I like it. I think that's worth keeping an eye on. And I'm just going to go ahead and set an alarm at 7,300 as well, because that area to me is fine. I mean, I would take the trade at 73 instead of hitting the perfect 73.10 fill, but I do think that 73.10 can get tested. So anyway, that looks good. And then having, you know, multiple pivot alignments on the weekly looks great. That pound yen, and I think I put the pivot, let me check here, pound yen 15-minute. Yep. So on my chart, again, here is the pivot indicator. So we're not giving a ton of distance yet, but what current price is sitting at to where Monday's pivot is only 19 pips away. So that is not quite in the ballpark where we are, you know, really excited about going after a third pivot. And for me, especially on a higher volatility pair, I would like this to work out with, you know, if we close up here and we have the pivot available, what would be great is on, you know, Monday, if the price goes up to R1 on the day and then gives us some room to trade it back down to the pivot. That would be awesome. If it leaves the pivot alone for a little bit, rallies up a little bit higher, then we can take the sell trade. But if, you know, as you can see here, it's already close to the line. So if it ends up closing right on it, then we're not going to have a third pivot. We're just going to have to look at our bar count and then trade it towards the 15 EMA when that's ready. But we'll see. I would say at the very least, we're going to get one of the two situations. We'll either, you know, we'll have it go up a little bit to trade to a third pivot and the 15-minute EMA, which would be great. Or the other situation is, you know, there's no pivot. It just goes a little bit sideways or a little bit up, and then we trade the higher bar count to go back down to the 15 EMA. So, but I think this one is a good one to, you know, hopefully plan on getting a good trade out of next week. So let's do that. So pound yen looks great. Let's take a look at that CAD yen. Is there a spot that we can start looking at CAD yen, and what is our bar count currently on CAD yen? 290. Okay, 290. Pivot wise, we just have, man, what a good bull flag that was this week, wasn't it? That played out really, really well. Bull flag, break,
perfect
retest,
break,
off.
perfect retest. Good grief.
Yep, that was awesome. That was awesome. Pivot wise, we just have today's pivot. You know, we're getting some good signs for divergence, but it's not there yet. I like, you know, the bar count getting higher, and probably, you know, once the bar count is up there, let's say we get to 350 or so, which it's going to be close by Monday. But if we can just, you know, if we go a little bit higher, that's even better, because that keeps the distance away from price and the EMA. But let me look at the 15-minute chart. So it will be close. I mean, we may just go sideways and have to consider a range if the bar count gets high enough and go after some pips to a pivot. But if it can keep drifting higher, then that would actually be good. So we can just have a little bit more distance to play with, and, you know, make our trade there when, you know, we're at 350 or 400 plus. I think that's all right. Blaine's asking a question. So being a new guy to the group, is there a place to get started, direction, starting point that we would suggest to get caught up? Does Blaine have the 15-minute course you just released? I think that's a good starting point, since that's what we're talking about. We got a couple of those trades looking at next week. And, you know, my suggestion is, Blaine, try to be in with us at every live session, because you know, we're finding trade setups, you know, each and every day, and they happen to fall in the same, you know, 4, 5, 6 methods and strategies, and those will certainly sink in, you know, much faster if you're here with us every day, or watching our sessions or watching the recordings. So that's a great starting point, is just, you know, get as engaged as possible.
Yep. And Blaine, on that note, and for everyone else that, you know, may be newer here and so on, it's the next couple of months are going to be a big push for a lot of our core material to be pushed out and made available to members and everyone. So there's going to be a lot of video material and content over the next couple of months that are going to, you know, kind of stand for the base material that we'll be using and covering on on our daily sessions. So hang in there for that. That's all coming. But in the meantime, like Chris said, the best way to stay up to speed with everything is just simply attend as many live sessions as you can. And any sessions you're not able to attend, log into the website. We post the video, usually a couple of hours after the end of the session. We'll post a video for the day, and you can kind of watch the analysis and everything that we did and went through. But the live sessions are always the best way to just kind of immerse yourself in what we do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so every time they are posted, we'll put it in Telegram to make sure everybody knows that they have been posted. On the note of next week, I think New Zealand dollar is a good setup for us. 15-minute EMAs are great. If for everybody that's either in the session today or watching the session on the recording, I mean, I would definitely recommend jumping into that 15-minute course that Jared just put out and get on that. I know that we've got a lot of new people that are coming in. That's that's just such a great starting point to just have a go-to trade that also I think transfers nicely into so many other good things. I mean, we've used the 15-minute EMA for so many good setups, but it also can create these crazy good reversals where it's not just the 15-minute EMA, but a bigger trade coming, lines up with the pivots that we talk about each and every day with trend line breaks and confirmations. I mean, all these lessons that, we would be trying to teach, trade after trade, it all kind of blends together with that 15-minute EMA. Plus, that's just a ridiculously accurate move. And, honestly, it was kind of the final touch was, the pound CAD this week. That was incredible that the pound CAD had, that double top and snapped right down to the EMA. It's just, man, this thing is good. That I pretty much said that to myself as I watched everything happen during Brexit on Tuesday. So pretty good stuff. And great point, Paul. Paul says also for trade management. Absolutely, right? Learning how to be a little bit flexible with those positions and, working the trade size, working the area, keeping your break even away from the moving target. I mean, that really does pack away a lot of fantastic lessons. That's awesome. Yep.
No, definitely. It's great on so many fronts. The whole 200 EMA principle, and specifically on on a 15-minute chart, but on all of these time frames, it's great to find these exhausted markets. It's great to find if you're specifically a trend trader, it's great to say, okay, the trend might be pooping out. I might be ready to pull some profits from a trend trade because we're seeing high bar counts against these 200 EMAs, and so. We have made trade after trade after trade on the 15-minute 200 EMA setup, and as Chris mentioned, I think the worst case scenario was a break even.
Right.
So the 15-minute 200 EMA is literally, I mean, it's pretty hard to say there's a setup that's never lost money, and that one. At least so far, that one is it. We've never lost money on that trade setup. We've always made some money on it. So it's so reliable, so great, and we're definitely excited to share it with you. For those that have traded it with us and have a decent idea of how it works, that is excellent. There's some new material in the course that will just make sure that everyone's clarified on it. It's kind of like when you watch something from the outside and you get the gist for the most part. There's a lot of inner workings that are still at play, and so in the course we talk about the importance of price patterns and confirmation, and when they're more important and when they're less important, and different ways to take profit on the trade and different ways to take entries on the trade, and all of those details. So if you're familiar with it and you're using it and it's working out pretty well for you, you can still definitely gain a lot from the course. Because there's a lot of other elements there that we've been able to gather from taking trade after trade after trade and analyzing the data, and so all of that's discussed in the course. There's some really great stuff in there, so go give it a look. There's some great video material, and we will, we'll be following up on a lot of that. Linda, you can, and everybody, let's see, where did that?
I think it's just a little bit further down in the chat.
Yeah, I will. There we go. Everybody that is interested, go right there.
Yep.
There we go.
Posted it before.
And that'll,
again. There you go.
Yeah, that'll get you the page, give you all the details, and then And of course, group members that have it, for people that are not group members, I'll be doing additional, we'll do some additional webinars and make sure that that there's a lot of follow-up. And for those that are in the group, of course, you'll get all kinds of support. So this will just be some good background for you. And then, of course, during our live sessions, we'll cover a lot of good details about that. Blaine, the 15-minute course, it's video and written material, and it's all online. So you get instant access to it, and there's video, written, and then some downloadable stuff in there as well. So it's all immediately available. Where are you located again, Blaine? You told me you typed into the chat the other day, and I'm trying. Oh, that's right. Okay, in Dallas. All right, excellent. Yep. So you'll just get immediate online access. Have a wonderful Friday, a great weekend. Thanks, Chris. Good stuff as always.
Yeah, let's carry it on to next week, shall we? Pound yen looks good, CAD yen if we can get those trades, and hopefully Kiwi dollar sets up for a 50 to 60 pipper, and let's see where our line in the sand is for Aussie New Zealand, or what the next step is. But again, critical levels on Kiwi that we're watching. I've got a little hedge going with Kiwi or Kiwi Swiss. But anyway, we'll be good. We'll tack it next week and just have another good week, as we always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Always great to see you all. Take care, ladies and gents, and we'll see you guys back here on Monday.